Hello and welcome to Core Women. My name is Dr. Summer Watson, and I'm the founder of Core Women, and I'm also an empowerment strategist for women. So if you're listening to this podcast to delve more into empowerment strategies, well, you're here for the right reason. However, Core Women was also developed because it's a special place that provides a unique idea of home for the hearts and souls of women. It's a place for us to share our strength, energy, wisdom, and authenticity. It's a place for women to find support and strategic empowerment ideas that will help support their lives.
Today on the show, I'd like to welcome Emily Skye of She Wolf Films, who is a screenwriter, director, and producer. She began her career after being scouted by Wilhelmina models at 17 and then worked on Miami Vice the movie and soon after left modeling to become a director. She is paving her own path and creating a journey she loves. Let's get right into talking about your exciting journey, Emily, and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
This is my first podcast, so I'm pretty excited about it. Yeah.
Well, thank you for being on the Core Women podcast. So let's chat about your journey and how modeling led to being a screenwriter, director, and producer. Wow. What a shift. So where do you want to start?
Well, I've always been a filmmaker, even while I was modeling. I was always getting people to get it, like to be in my short films, or I've been writing like little skits and things like that. Modeling really opened the door for me with getting in the industry with the right people, and that's when I really developed that aspect of I can do this. I didn't really want to be a model full time. I was doing some really amazing jobs, like I was in Abercrombie, I was in Glamour magazine. I see some random pictures of me that I guess was like a stock photography thing, that I walked into Walgreens and there was like a giant poster of me, and this is like 10 years later. This one picture just haunts me. I'm like, why is this one picture,
you should be proud of that.
Yeah, it was like, my friend goes, Emily, is this you? And I go, where? And she takes a screenshot and sends it to me. I'm like, yep, that's me. The same picture that was on Walgreens ended up just everywhere. It was in Cosmopolitan, go figure. And it's just been everywhere, this one picture. So, I loved, it was a great opportunity to be able to model, and it really opened my eyes to see what direction I wanted to go in. And when I worked on Miami Vice, I actually was supposed to have a role in the movie, but I was in Ireland for a couple weeks, and every time I called my agency to see, hey, did I get the role? Do I have to come back for a callback? What's going on? They're like, oh, nothing's going on. I haven't heard anything. And I come home, and sure enough, I have so many messages saying, we thought you wanted to be a part of the movie and yada, yada. So I said, hey, I would still like to be a part of it. So I was still in it, but I worked more on the PA side instead of just being in it. And it was such a great opportunity to work with Michael Mann and Jamie Foxx and Colin Farrell, and just overlooking. I remember standing on the stage, and we had this one scene in the mansion, and there was 800 extras, and that was like my moment of just watching Michael Mann and watching the cameras and just everything, and that was my moment of, I can do this. I'm going to do this for a career. I don't want to just do it as a hobby. That was like my moment. And then I soon convinced this hip hop group to let me direct their music video. And then that brought me into working with a radio station called X1023. And there was this group called the Babalu Bad Boys that had their own record label that they were starting. And so I was working with a few of their artists that were coming through, and soon transitioned into being a narrative director. That was the direction I wanted to go in, was absolutely doing sci-fi, fantasy, narrative, dramedies, thrillers. Like that's my passion. So that's how it all kind of started.
Very cool. That is so cool. Yeah. I love that journey. So tell the listeners a bit about what you've written, produced, directed with your 8 episodes of your docuseries. Is it Binder's Stash?
It's called Binders.
So, okay.
Yeah. So basically that show, I moved back from LA to almost 3 years ago, back to Florida. I have a 7-year-old son. and he was starting kindergarten at the time, and I really wanted him to be around my family, and I wanted to be I wanted to be plugged in and have more of a stable environment for him and my family and his dad. Everyone's here, so that was my decision to move back to Florida so that I could just really settle down and then travel out to where I needed to travel from there. But I walked into a bar, as cliche as that sounds, and
I walked into a bar.
I walked into a bar. My friend was like, "Hey, come check out this bar called CWS, yada, yada." I was like, okay, cool. So I walked in, and that's when I met my now boyfriend. We've been dating for 2.5 years. And around the 6-month marker of us dating, I was just watching him and his knowledge of whiskey, and he designed whiskey dens, and he created bar programs and all of that. And he's just so talented that he had such a presence that I'm like, why don't we take your knowledge and make a whiskey show, a traveling whiskey show? I have never seen it on TV. I think this would be so epic. Let's do it. It took me about 4 months of persuasion to get him to commit to the idea, because he's like, oh, I don't want to do it. And then I was like, dude, you're working 90 hours a week for people. Like, you could do your own thing and drink whiskey, and have a blast. So he eventually gave in, and we started the journey of the show. So from concept to editing, it was all a year, and it was 9.5 weeks of traveling. We went to 34 locations, 13 states, in 9.5 weeks. So we were like banging it out. And so we have a total of 8 episodes. There's 4 locations per episode. And
that's crazy. That's amazing.
It was great. Yeah, no, it was a huge experience. It was my first undertaking with like a docuseries, but it was so much fun to kind of partake in that. And it's like an Anthony Bourdain style, but for whiskey. Yeah. So that's like the whole vibe of the show, which is really cool.
Very cool.
And it's dropping this year. I wish I could tell you the network, but we're still all in the quiet. We can't announce it officially yet. But we're hoping in the next 14 days we will, because we should be getting greenlit, as far as announcements.
That is exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be great. And then
congratulations.
Pretty much. Thank you so much. We already have a couple spin-offs of the show in the works too, as well as the second season prepping. So we're moving along. It's going great. And then I have a dramedy series called The Erectors, which is based on a true story of my partner and myself, of our failure of trying to be filmmakers in Hollywood with our first TV show that we were trying to do.
That's cool.
And yeah, so it's 2 single moms that are trying to make it in Hollywood as filmmakers. That's the whole premise of the story. And we just kind of put together some really interesting stories that we experienced. Some are a little more exaggerated, but they're based on truth. And we didn't think it was going to be picked up so quickly, but it was. We kind of took a moment of what we felt like failure in our life and turned it into a dramedy.
That's awesome. You use those moments in your life and you do something with them. And that kind of leads me to the next question is, what's been your most challenging thing for you in your career, and how have you overcome the challenge? And it's almost like you kind of answered that already, but but go ahead, if you want to speak to this.
Yeah. So as a filmmaker or anybody in any kind of industry that's trying to pave their own path, it's going to be challenging. And I feel, I don't like to even say that those moments in my life were failures. They were just learning experiences. And it just helped me grow to the next phase of my life. And without those tools and that knowledge of those stepping stones, I wouldn't be where I am, and I wouldn't be able to handle the things that I have coming my way now if I wasn't able to go through those bumps and those hiccups throughout my career. And I feel as long as you stay focused and keep moving on, and it's okay to cry, and it's okay to have meltdowns, because we're human. And if you need that moment to take a second and reevaluate the situation and regroup and then come back to it, it's totally okay too.
Absolutely.
Those were kind of, it it was hard. It was definitely a challenge. You know, for that show in particular, we got all the way to like SuperCon. We were on panel with a cast of The 100 and The Walking Dead, and we were right there. We had financing. We were on set to start filming, and then the financing fell through because unfortunately taxes weren't paid correctly on the investors' part. So it froze the entire production. And in that moment was my moment of, okay, I can completely give up being a filmmaker and not go back to this again. Or I can, you know, look at it as a whole and be like, you know what, things happen and it's just the industry in itself. I mean, there's stories of people being on set filming and then things happen and then the production has to close down, you know?
Right.
So it's just looking at those obstacles and just keep on pushing through. And I look at that as that was my moment of, I still want to do this. I'm going to still push through. And then once you push through that, it just opened up to so many more things, because I feel like if you keep putting out what you want into the universe, it comes back. You just have to keep pushing forward and have a clear vision of where you want to go and not let the negative or the doubts of people around you affect you, because there's that. You just have to keep listening to your own inner voice. And so I feel that's pretty much.
Yeah, I think you did a wonderful job with that. I mean, you have overcome the challenges, and I really like how you mentioned, you know, the concept of failure not being failure. And I actually addressed that in a film that I just made that just came out yesterday. And so I address it because it's a dichotomy between success and failure, good and evil, those kinds of things. So you always have to have that failure, whatever, but it's not really failure. It's really just an opportunity to learn from. And it's part of the journey.
Absolutely.
And once you get back up and you can be resilient and you can learn, you know, the process of what you need to do next, that's a success to me.
Absolutely. I agree 110%. And through that whole time, everyone that was a part of the crew and the cast, everyone we stuck together. And it was just that moment of, okay, we're all doing this together, you know, and it wasn't, no one was outcasted, and it felt like a unit, you know, we all were upset. And I think for me, my moment of grieving was not for myself, but for feeling like I let down my team, you know, and my cast and everyone that was on board the project. I think that was the hardest part for me to overcome throughout the whole challenge. But as you said, it's still, you're still coming out, and it's a success because you tried and you did it, and you came out stronger. And I have bigger and better opportunities that are now in front of me and things that I've done just by not giving up and pursuing. I mean, anything, whatever industry or career that you're chasing or wanting to be a part of, you have to expect it's not going to be an easy ride.
Oh, absolutely. You got that right, you know, and if you can push through and keep pursuing and learning from the challenges, I mean, and like you said, really, you know, see what your vision is and make it clear in your mind and your intentions, and you keep putting it out to the universe, and you keep creating action. So action creates action. You keep making action, you're going to be successful. At some point, you will, you know, and I think you mentioned part too, is that it has a lot to do with the things that are coming at you, what people are saying, the people you surround yourself with. And sometimes you got to shed those layers and say, okay, I need to put up some walls here because I need to be positive about this. I have my vision, and I know exactly how I'm going to go about it. And yes, there may be some bumps in the road, but hang on tight because I'm going to be successful at this. And if you've got that, you are going to be a success. If you know that and you keep that in your mind, you will be a success. So
absolutely. I agree. You are who you hang out with.
Right. And look at look what's happening. Some very, very positive things. And you made that happen. You created action, which created more action for you. And bravo to you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. You know, it's so wonderful what I really love about social media, because I used to not be a huge social media person, but over the last few months, I really started to brand myself and come out. And I've been meeting the most incredible women and even men in the filmmaking community, where we just uplift and support each other. And when we're having a bad day or something, the other person is like, you got this, you can keep moving, you know, don't give up. And you need that. I think community is so important, and to surround yourself with mentors, like people that you want to strive to be like, and that you can ask for guidance in certain instances. You know, if I didn't have that in my life where I had people that I could trust and be like, yo, what do you think about this? You know, then I think, you know, it's important to have the people that have been around longer in this industry and know what's up, and that can honestly give you honest feedback and help you. Right. I think that's important too, because you don't want people that just put icing on everything. You want people that can be really honest with you and tell you, hey, you could do it better this way, you know, or try it like this next time. And because I'm always looking to how can I be a better director? What can I do differently? Even when I'm working with my actors, like I'll even ask them, if there's a way that you would like to be directed, let me know, because everyone has a method and a way that communication works for them in a certain way. So I definitely want to make sure that I'm hitting the right notes with my actors so that there's no missing of communication between us. So I feel it's always good to ask those questions and surround yourself with people that can help you and guide you.
Yeah, so true. I think those are very important points that you've made, because I'm going back to the film that I made that I just released. There was a young woman in there, and and the film is about all these women who are trying to navigate their way through the Nashville music, you know, profession and those waters over there in Music City. And she said to me, you know, in the film, she said, ask the questions and go out and send an email to those people that you feel like could be a mentor, or, you know, and if you ask them in a way that you just want to learn, you're not really looking for something except their knowledge where they can kind of guide you, they're really receptive to that, because she said they realize we're all just people trying to help each other out. And I thought, you know what, that's a good piece of information, because sometimes we're really intimidated to reach out and ask people questions. And I think you should just go for it and learn from them. And again, like you said, ask for mentors, seek information, and you will get that support. I truly believe it. So you put out what you're looking for. You know what I mean? And
absolutely,
you can't hide behind that. If you do, you're not going to have that forward momentum that you're really looking for. So you got to put yourself out there. You got to ask the questions, and you got to do what you're doing, making that movement, right? So you've given so much information thus far, and you've done so many amazing things, from modeling to, you know, your career as a director, a screenwriter, a producer. If I were to ask you, what would be words of wisdom you can leave the listeners with today?
There's quite a few. I guess my biggest piece of advice or words of wisdom is follow your instincts. And like we've been talking about before, is just surround yourself with good people that give you the support that you need, because filmmaking is not just it's a team. There's a group of people that come together to follow the vision that you have. So make your team and choose it wisely. I think that is really important, because you are your team. You all have to work together and support each other through whatever it is, and to have a clear vision of what that is, and to make vision boards. I'm a huge believer of vision boards and putting out my goals of what I want. And, you know, they change here and there, but I'll correct them and I go back to it. But do that, because that helps you with your clear vision. And I feel like that's really important because in this industry, you don't have people telling you what to do necessarily. You have to be your own self-motivator. You have to create your own drive to go out and to do it. You know, some days you don't feel like maybe trying to network or making connections or asking people for help, but you have to do these things in order to move forward and advance, because this industry is all about making your team and creating those connections and making friendships. It's a community. So get plugged in. Yep. Get plugged in. That's the biggest thing. Find those women or men that you really look up to and build it, because you'll feel so alone if you don't have that support. So I suggest like just finding your right team, like building it.
Right. I think that's a great word of wisdom. Thank you, Emily, for joining me on the Core Women podcast today.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, and congratulations on your film. You're going to have to send me the link so I can watch it.
Thank you.
If you would like to know more about Emily, please go to her website at shewolffilms.com and follow her on Instagram at shewolffilms and Facebook at emily.m.skye. If you need a strategic empowerment coach, contact me. If you want to tell your story of empowerment or how you have reconstructed your life to drive change, send me a video or an email of your story, providing permission to use it on my social media platforms. If you want to be featured on my podcast, reach out to me at info@corewomen.com. I want to hear from you and to get to know you. You are now part of the Core Women home. Let's get to know each other. Let's learn from one another. Please follow Core Women on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Please let your women friends know about this podcast. If you write about Core Women in your social media posts, please hashtag Core Women. This is all about women. Thank you for taking the time to learn more about Core Women, and please stay tuned for continued growth of the Core Women movement. Let's grow and drive change together.